Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your producer and host of the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. This is your motivational podcast of people's incredible journeys. Oh, yeah, let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would love to welcome back for the second time, Jason G. Pike. USA retired to serve both as the enlisted soldier and officer, including 9 years overseas in 5 countries. With over 30 service awards and badges, his first book, A Soldier Against All Odds, shares his life in uniform with brutal honesty and inspiration. His second book, Out of the Uniform, Back into Civilian Life, provides a vital blueprint for veterans navigating VA benefits. And now in his third book, Leading Through the Crossfire, Jason helps readers overcome toxic leadership challenges in the workplace. This is amazing. I'm just really excited to have you back. Jason, what's been going on the last 2 years? You were last on my show 2 years ago.
Yes, after that first book, that was the book that was from hell, just because it was my first book. And then so from that, we started thinking, well, we've got other things we can talk about. We've already paved the path. So that's where I came up with the second book, which would be a veterans benefit guide on how to get your money and your shit and all your free stuff. And that's out of the uniform back into civilian life. But it's really a self-help guide. And there's a lot of links to it. Kindle would be the best way to get it. So you can link in for the veterans, maybe their family member wants that, what have you. So I learned a lot because hell, I had to do it myself because no one from the VA, a lot of people weren't helping me out. So I learned a lot by doing it myself, which is, I don't advise you to do it yourself.
Sure, right.
I have a lot of good advice in there. And then, that first book we talked about, that first book was my life, my memoir. It's kind of like it's kind of like a Forrest Gump in uniform, where all the failures and the fiascos and the life events of a time in uniform. And so with this book right here, we were able to figure out, hey, I know how to do a few things. I know how to get my benefits. But that first book everybody was asking me, what was my worst experience in the military? Most people think, well, you went to war and got shot or saw somebody get blown up. But that's not it. Right. It was toxic leadership. That was my worst experience. That what gave me PTSD was toxic leadership. So that's why we came up with the third book. There's a lot of other people who've been through hell, and I'm not bashing the military with this third book. And they got an audio too, my voice. And
oh, really? You also have it in audio?
I got it in audio, and I'm the narrator. I am the author.
Oh, I love that.
So just like the first book. And so, so that's why we came up with this. And it was also a way for me to deal. There's so many people I figured out. I mean, there's a lot of people had it a lot worse than me. And so that's why I wanted to get to, and there's a lot of other stories and how to go about, if you're in a wicked workplace that's just making you sick, what to do about it and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first one encompasses basically some of your bad experiences, worst experiences that you had as a soldier, and some of the things that you had to carry on. I remember this. It's imprinted. So if anyone's interested, I will drop down on the link, the very first episode about his book, which is really incredible stories and triumph, really, to be where you're at today. And also, so your second one is like a self-help book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is about how to get your benefits. There's so much stuff in the Veterans Administration that a lot of people just don't know about it, and it's hell. I mean, it's a big bureaucracy, and it's hard to deal with them. And so I figured I could, give some inspiration and hope to people that are navigating that bureaucracy.
Speaking of navigating bureaucracy, right now with the new administration, do you feel this is going to be I see you smiling already.
I know a lot of others. So I see a lot of veterans get federal jobs and things, and a lot of them have been relieved. They're leaving the workplace, and I see it. I see the Texas, and I know some of these people that are being forced out of their job. But a lot of the new and maybe And so I think, it's pretty sad. And I know some people up in the Washington, D.C. area who say it's just plain damn chaos up there. Yeah.
What advice can you give to these people where they're experiencing this change right now with the administration being where they've been serving our country and now having to be in a place where they didn't ever imagine they would be coming out as a civilian?
Oh, you're just going to have to get a resume together and get out of the federal government. It appears even the contracting world is looking like it's taking a hit. They're going to have to go into some places probably they've never been before, such as, the corporate world. One guy I know that he said, I applied to be he was a lieutenant colonel. He says, I applied to be a bus driver, like a school bus driver, and making a joke about it.
Sure.
But you're going to have to maybe go down a notch. Or two, and then have to work yourself back up again. I think that's what's going to have to do. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. So tell us about your third book. I mean, so basically when you were first writing the first book, there was some chaos, what's going on, let's get this organization. But now you're working with the same person, so you're able to knock out the second and the third one all within the last 2 years. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, we worked so hard with the first book, which was like 3 to 4 years that I stayed with the same ghostwriter. And so we had a lot of the material to flow with, and especially my ghostwriter. I failed the first grade. English is my worst subject. Reading and writing is my worst subject. Okay. So, but I work with somebody who helps me out. And so we've already paved the path. And so once that path was paved, it was easier to go back with different themes and go through this, again, especially if somebody knows you and they've gotten to know you very well, and he has. So, but that's how that worked, to get knocking them out too. And I worked hard too. We worked really hard doing it too, so.
And so your new book, let's talk about your new book. How did that come about? And let's just talk.
Yeah. Leading through it's a toxic leadership. It's maybe you have a toxic or just a bad a boss that's really like maybe narcissistic, maybe just vacant. So I was under a federal investigation of subversion and espionage against the U.S. Army, which was the part in the first book I talked about having false accusations thrown at you. And that hurt more than going to war, because going to war, I was trained to do that. But being blindsided by someone who just wants to throw you under the bus, maybe they just want to ghostlight you, or, so I thought, wow, what is all this about? And I said, well, they're manipulative. Some bosses are just bullies, and they're manipulative, and they have a personality problem. I think they might have a personality disorder. I got sick. That's where my PTSD showed up at. So these bosses, sometimes they're arrogant, manipulative, and they have a sense of grandiosity, but not, we don't want to talk about the politics, but you're gonna see that in this world. And a lot of people who rise to the top, I'm going to say a good thing about them. They get the job done, but at all costs. They kiss up, but they shit down, or they kick down. They kiss up and they kick down. That's what they do. I wanted to get a handle on it. I just suffered through I was suffering in silence and just through drinking a lot of Jack Daniels. And I did go to the chaplain. I did exercise crazy. I did. And it was the first time I really went to mental health. It was in South. I was serving in South Korea at the time, when it wasn't popular to go to mental health, or when it was pretty much a shame, especially as a senior person. And so it took me a while to even talk about it much, because that occurred in 2008, 2007, 2008. I remember everything about it. And so I wanted to get more into that, because that was the biggest part of my life. That was more the hellacious part. And so I said, well, we can create a book. I'm sure this has happened to other people, and let's get these stories out of other people, change the names. Some of them are active duty. I mean, some of them have just been through hell in life, and it could be a toxic partner, but we figured it'd be good for toxic, bosses and supervisors and work environments. So that's how that got out. And I did the audio as well. And It really, it was kind of like a healing in many ways. I'm thinking,
Imagine.
golly, my stuff ain't that bad, I think, but compared to some of these other people I've talked to,
Mhm.
and we wrote stories down about and what to do and what to do in the situation and how to manage that.
Yeah, I love that. What to do and how to manage it. And so this is really incredible that you were able to take some of your darkest days and turn it into something bright by helping people understand and recognize what is toxic leadership. And so you were seeing this kiss up and kick down type personalities, and this is what was keeping you in this detrimental silence in this dark space. And you
Mhm.
started to figure out or try to figure out what is it about this type of personality that's keeping them in, can I use the word power? Keeping them in power?
Power, they enjoy power. Yeah, they
Yeah.
enjoy
So
power.
so I mean, yeah, what did you discover in this in kind of digging into to towards these toxic leadership personalities? What did you discover?
Well, what I discovered is, what to do. I think I'm trying to give it like action steps for other people on what to do.
Yeah, that's great.
So, a lot of people, with me and most people, we're just trying to survive on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And but I'm going to tell you to try to document whatever you can do. But when you document, you have to remember recently what hell you just went through, and to put it all down on paper, who, what, when, where, and why. And I did a little bit of that, but it just seemed like I was just trying to survive, and I did some of it, but what am I going to do with it? Who am I going to show it to anyway? And
Right.
you feel alone. You feel all by yourself, and you're
Mm.
trying to survive. I mean, but so you got two options. You can try to fight it, or you can try to transfer. And some people, and if you're going to fight it, you need to document detail. Maybe have another coworker or someone else who has the same feelings of, because the details, they really don't lie. And if you've got maybe months of that, I've only had a few days because it was just so hard to read. If you've got months and months of it, you could possibly give it to someone in personnel or medical or in quality control, but understand, this stuff is probably going to get back to you. And that toxic leader might find out. And if he does, he's going to come down hard or a different angle to attack you, because these people got to power for they had a purpose of getting into power. And so they know the system. That's why they're up there. And you might get retribution. Just be careful. I'm going to say you can do that, but I would be very careful, because they may have everybody else under their cloak too. It doesn't matter if it's a chaplain or quality
Yeah.
control. So be careful. And I tell some people how to do these things. If without reading the book, if you're in that situation, I'd say transfer, get out. I mean, if in usually these are in hierarchical organizations such as military, police force, or government. They're in corporations too, wherever there's a hierarchy of power. So I would say transfer somewhere else. I mean, if you're in the Apple Corporation, maybe there's another function in a different department, or maybe maybe into Google. And if you're in the government, maybe there's a way to transfer to a different line of work. Okay. I would say so. Without reading the book, get the hell out of there. I knew I needed to go. But I was in such a unique specialty, and it was overseas, and it was not as good to do it. The government did transfer me within the country, but it was just because they heard so much crazy stuff about me, which was not true. They wanted me to get out. But I would say get out, try to get out. But of course, a lot of people will think, well, my benefits will be lost. Well, maybe my pay will be, or what about this or what about that? I may have to transfer, I may have to move. But you're also talking about your health. And that's what suffered with me. It's where I really hit rock bottom, and it seems to be the worst thing in my adult life. So that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I give you some action steps on what to do if you're in these situations.
So basically, I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. If people don't stick up for themselves and they stay in a toxic workplace where there's toxic leadership, it's going to be very detrimental for your health, your mental health, and your physical health. I mean, your health overall, correct?
And yes, you may go into substance abuse issues. You may change your personality may change. You may get into depression. It could be other different things that happen. And it's not only to you, it could be also to your family, because you're going to be
Right.
down. And so your family members may be
Right.
get hurt about it as well. And yeah, I remember my daughter was saying, Jason, I mean, so Daddy, let's stay here one more year. I'm thinking, oh no, because she had a friend. She was like probably around she was probably the third grade. And I'm thinking, yes, I love Korean food. And I really want you to stay out, but I got to get the hell out of here. But I can't explain that to someone who's like 9
Oh,
years
right. Yeah.
old.
How do you explain
Right.
it?
And now she's an adult and she read the book and she says, damn, I didn't know you went through all that. But yeah, so but yeah, you really need to get out. And once I left the assignment, it disappeared. Never happened before and it never happened afterward. So there was something in the workplace that some people just don't mesh. Sometimes you come into a perfect storm. There could be all kinds of little personality issues and power plays going on. And yes, it may not be your fault. It just may be the situation that you walked into. I kind of knew it in my gut that I was walking in. The very first day I walked into the office, I'm thinking, just, oh my God, oh, this is not going to be good. And I remember that it was July of 2007. And then I says, I know something. And it was my first, I had been in the Army a long time and I'd been to South Korea on 2 different tours before, but I knew it in my gut and I couldn't prove it though. I knew something was going to happen, but I didn't know when, and I didn't know what it was going to be about. And it did, but it occurred about 7 months later than that, around February 2008. Yeah. So, but I have that all detailed out and I wrote all about it. And your gut, listen to your gut a lot. And, but if a wicked workplace is causing you problems, you I would say, look to leave. And if you're going to fight it, just like any, you got to have a lot of details, and and even if you've got the details there and all the video, whatever be careful of who you give it to, because that power play may have an influence. They may come back. There may be retribution to you. Maybe not now, but later, because keep in mind, these people, they're like power. They like to be up there. They went through so many gates to get to where they're at that many things they could get you. I guess. Yeah. So yeah, I understand what you're talking about with the politics of today, but yeah, there's definitely there's definitely something there. So but yeah.
Jason, what are some signs of toxic leadership? Like, for example, you're saying it was like your first day and you could already feel in your gut. I mean, what was that feeling? What did you see? What did you observe? And what are some
Like,
signs that people can pay attention to?
well, people were walking around on eggshells, and when they talked, they weren't being very
I
natural.
see. Okay.
And they're like, and they would look to be a little off, a little bit, maybe a little scared, or a little bit, oh, we got to walk around on eggshells. Um, and sometimes those toxic leaders are just bullies, and
Sure.
they scare everybody, or maybe they're tyrant type of people, or maybe they don't talk a lot, but they love to be in power, and maybe they're silent, you can manifest these things different ways. Mine was sort of just walked in the office, slammed the door, and when she came out, she was always screaming about somebody or something. And then her personality would change to where she would come in and say, here's all the baked goods. Everybody come eat the baked goods. And she was good at baking things. And she would come in there, and a lot of people would run up to the front office and eat the bake. Even if they don't like cookies, they would eat them to let her know that, yeah, I like them. That's good. That's good. And they were in fear, and they were eating the bakery cookies because, they want to be on the good side. And so you find these little things going on, and it's kind of, you can feel it. And again, a lot of them do micromanage. A lot of them they may not. There may be arrogant people, and or have a sense of self grandiosity and things. But over there in where I was at, you just tell it feels off. Things don't feel normal, and I could tell that. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds really heavy. I mean, and I think maybe I've had maybe a few situations where I've worked in an environment where I've felt that toxic leadership, and in my experience, it feels heavy, and kind of like you can't really fully be yourself. You have to censor yourself or quiet down a bit and or find yourself maybe on the borderline of people pleasing. And all of that is like a trauma response because we're not really being our true selves. We're afraid, and so we're protecting ourselves by being someone we're not. And that can definitely have some incredible detrimental implications in home and the workplace. And so
Mm.
were you able to find out or just like through your research or through your reading, like what causes these people to become this way?
I think there's a personality, so like maybe some sort of a personality disorder that
Yeah,
they were maybe born with.
sure.
They have issues themselves. I'm sure if you went behind closed doors, but they do love power. They seem to be oriented into hierarchical organizations, like walking up a ladder to where
I
they
see.
can
Uh-huh.
be the judge, jury, and execute. They
Right.
get a feeling on it. It's hard to identify them from a top-down perspective. In other words, it's because they do a lot of work, and a lot of them are some of them are very hard workers, or they have their people work so hard that everything's they please their bosses so well. It's hard to really, for a type person, it's hard to, unless there's a complaint went through. I did when I was in Afghanistan. I had a subordinate leader who was a toxic leader to a sergeant. So I was the top, but this sergeant, female sergeant, was being berated and just antagonized by her leader, which was a captain. I was a lieutenant colonel. But my first sergeant told me, "Hey, we got to get this woman out of there. There's something going on." She was crying. She was in fear, and I've got her in the book. I that was one situation where I was not the target of of a toxic leader. I could see it going on in my unit. And so I tried to get the person out of Afghanistan, but it was so difficult. And I definitely could see the toxic leadership. I gave him a bad evaluation, but he went on to retire in the military because it's just the way it is. I mean, you can give someone bad evaluation or maybe not an award, but they're also in this organization, and sometimes they filter through the system.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so I saw it not only being targeted, but I've also seen it being top down. And then that person has to complain and just
I see.
mentally just break down or go to the hospital. And they have to have, and then you got to have somebody who can see it and think, wow, it's not, it's something else. It's because they were doing a good job. It was just a personality issue,
Right.
which was a toxic boss just coming down on this
Oh yeah.
sergeant. So I've seen it in different ways. I've seen it to my left. I've seen it in different manners. But yeah, I'm not going to say that it's a rare. I mean, I did 31 years in the Army, but probably seen three good. Well, I don't say good. Three toxic leaderships I could define as.
And so in your book, thanks for sharing all this. And so in your book, Leadership Through the Crossfire, your new book, how is your book divided? Tell me guide us through
Yeah,
the book.
I talk about my toxic leadership situations
Okay.
and what I've seen. And then what we did was I called out to a lot of veterans, and I've done a lot of podcasts, and I said, well, how about some other veterans? I would take like maybe a podcast person and say, hey, a veteran, it was a veterans podcast. I would need some people to tell me some stories about their toxic leadership. So we had to vet these stories and try
Oh,
to
wow.
put themes, maybe, yeah, put theme lines into all these other, and you'll see, wow, this happened to him, this happened to him. And now I kind of understand because I have real life examples of other people and what happened to them. They will live through it. These people, they're living with them. They're going to live with this just like me. They're going to live with it for all their lives. A lot of them go into therapy or they go into other things to do to help them out. But yeah, and so that's how we went through the book, basically, was other people and what they saw, what happened to them, and what was the repercussions. And so you can get a handle. And it's just not me saying, this is a toxic leader, this is a toxic leader. You'll see other examples in there.
Wow, this is excellent. And so also within your book, I mean, what was the biggest, I guess, what was the biggest, did you hit any walls? That's just the question.
We pretty much no, we didn't hit no walls because that was when with my first book, I had talked about it, and that was the hardest chapter. Really, on my first book, A Soldier Against All Odds, when you go to the chapter called Third Time's a Charm, that was the hardest chapter to do. We had pretty much gotten my story. And then once I had this out, I could put it there again, but also with other people's toxic leader stories to form themes that would go through it. So there was not a block per se. I mean, every once in a while where we hadn't had that many blocks on there. I'm working on my fourth book, and we're hitting a block, but sometimes you just get too much information. You don't even know who to take and who to dispose of, because we go through a lot of people, and then we say, well, what are the best people to communicate these things to? Yeah, that's how that worked. Yeah.
What are you hoping that readers will gain from your new book?
Well, this one is action steps on that. You're not alone. You're not alone. And there's what to do in these situations, how to perceive these other people going through their situations and what they did. And some of these people had tried to report these things and they got hammered. And some people just suffered. Most people just suffered in the situation, and looking for alternatives on what to do, how to get out and how to move out and try to get out of the situation. And if you're going to fight it, be very careful and document. And but I know a lot of people want to fight the system, and these folks get up there and they're pretty darn powerful. And you can do that. I would say maybe put all your paperwork together and then give it to them and then get the hell out. I mean, because they're going to find out about you, and they're such crazy people. I mean, a lot of them are crazy as hell, and they may end up following your ass to the next assignment. I mean, because if I was in I know this person, I know the person that caused me hell. He's still in the government. Or if I was in a government situation, they may want to follow you, or they may want to try to destroy you in another workplace or another place in life. So that's what I learned. With me personally, I looked at my story and I thought my story was really hell, and it is for me. But then I talked to other people, and I'm thinking, wow, these stories are really bad too, worse. In my case, I'm thinking, mine's not bad. I get that feeling. Mine's not that bad after all, after I've seen some of these things and heard some of these other things. But I guess it's your perception. If it's happening to you, it's happening to you, and that means it's bad. So that's what I got out of it. I got a lot of healing out of it. I got a lot of therapy out of it, talking to other people, writing it down. So I did the audio book too. And so it's talking, and you just, yeah, that's what I got out of it.
I want to know a little bit more about your healing through this book. But before we get there, I had a question about, and only because I'm feeling this as you're talking about the repercussions of, I guess, calling out somebody that's having toxic leadership. It almost feels like the employee or the subordinate can feel trapped, and almost like I'm so afraid. Like the way you're explaining it and describing it, I'm feeling trapped, and it's like, well, what does somebody do in that situation where they really feel like I can't get out of this? There's no way out.
There's no way out. Ooh, that's what I felt. And I was a lieutenant colonel, which was pretty high up there. And I felt alone and small. And I had been in the military for a long time to that point. And I had a lot of awards to that point, but it makes you feel like you're nothing. And that's what I'm thinking. I know I'm something. I mean, I just feel like nothing. I feel like, and so you suffered. And with me at the time, I never experienced it when I was going through it. I said, well, I heard about documentation, and I tried to document. I still got some memorandums, but but it wasn't, I knew it wasn't enough. And you can't think straight when you're in that.
Right.
You got to I forgot to tell you, you've been injured, moral injury or whatever, mental. You've been injured, and if you're injured, it's hard to fight. You need to understand that you've been injured, and it's really difficult for. So you look at medical if you need to go there for mental or anything. I thought I was having a heart attack. I went into the hospital, EKG. I had my high blood pressure everywhere, and so but. Then you have oh God, I'm just reliving it right now. But yeah, so chaplain, go to the chaplain, friends and family, and try to get it out. Try to get this things out. I was a gym rat. I was doing Jack Daniels and gym, basically both.
Oh,
Jack
wow.
Daniels at night to go to
That's
sleep.
heavy.
And then the gym, in the daytime in the gym a lot, working out a whole lot. And then so but yeah, a trusted person in the organization that you could talk to that is trusted. Be careful, because they could have a lot of people under their, and that's what I thought. I thought, man, I just said, man, I just got, but see, with me in the military, we moved. So I'm thinking maybe I can just, I know in about 2 to 3 years, I'll be moved. Maybe I can just, some people may have to stay there for a long time, but I knew that if I could just, stand on my head for that many months, that one more year, maybe I could just I will get transferred, because that's the cycle. But some people may not be in those situations, and they may have to go to the point of just going through the document, get another buddy that's been through hell, maybe another coworker who's been there, and then y'all get together and rely on each other to document these things down. And then once you've got it documented down, who do you give it to? Who's a trusted official that might help you out? Maybe get you transferred. Maybe I mean, I'm sorry to say, but you may have to go to have a mental breakdown and have medical, because medical to say, hey, this guy needs to leave or something. Or but yeah, those are the things that we talk about in the book.
Well, hopefully to prevent a mental breakdown, one could, just to reiterate what you mentioned, first document, and even though that could be a little difficult to do, but do your best to document and make sure that you're talking to friends and family about what's going on, keeping open communication with them, and then trying to see if there's a trusted coworker, somebody that you can go through that, or maybe that's same level or a higher level, or someone at your level, someone that you trust in the organization, to continue forward and just to continue to document, and then hopefully to get yourself transferred out of there.
Exactly. Transferred out of there. That's the key word. You got to get moved. And you may, and also you don't have to end your career, and you may have to physically move to another job, but I mean, it's about your health, really. It's about your health. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, absolutely 100% about your health.
Mm-hmm. Sure enough.
So let's get into your healing. I remember with your first book, there was so much that you revealed, and that you also felt that there was like a weight that was lifted off of you. A soldier against all
Yeah,
odds.
soldier against all odds, and it was a weight because I did the audiobook here too. So you're doing a series of events. This book, and I've got it in the very beginning, and then testimony where it nearly killed me. I went into the hospital. Whoa, it was about 4 years ago, February 2021. I went into Stone Oak Methodist Hospital because of blood clots in my lungs and legs. And everybody thought I was a smoker. And all the doctors were saying, are you I think I answered the question, are you a smoker, 100 times over there at that hospital. And I said, no, 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 no. No, why is everybody's asking me? Because they're trying to figure out what's going on. And I said, well, no, no, no. And then, but I think, you know what? I was actually sitting in this house right over here, stressing out. And yeah, I was drinking Jack Daniels too. And so I was stressing out, but the key was I was sitting down. And when I was sitting down, and I wasn't exercising like I told you I normally do. So my body went from exercising a lot to now just stressing and sitting over the book for long periods of time. And I remember telling my wife, you know what? Yeah, I've never sat down this long. Have you ever seen me sit down this long and try to work on something? And I said, and that was no. And then later on, and then the blood clots developed in my lungs and legs. At the same time, we had that mega snowstorm. I got pneumonia. Lights went out in the house. The water went out here. And I'm in Texas, but this was weird. It was a strange snowstorm event. And then here I was. And I had that feeling of death, a feeling of, I don't know, death. I said, Beverly, you know what? I feel like I'm going to die. And, I just want to tell you, I love you. And she was looking at me and she said, I was like, what are you doing? She says, I feel like it. And she says, you're crazy. I said, no, I'm not that. I'm crazy. This is different. And then later on, after the snowstorm, I went to the doctor, and then they said, man, and I went to the ICU. And they put a heparin blood thinner right in my chest, and IV antibiotics, and they said DNR, do not resuscitate. Yeah, go ahead and sign that. And then Beverly came in and we looked at end of life procedures. I was going to be buried over there at the Fort Sam Houston cemetery and obituary and things. And then Beverly, and I told the doctor, so how did you get in this situation? Are you a smoker? I says, no. And I was up there like, oh, no, I'm not. I had oxygen in me. And I says, Beverly, she said I told her I thought I was going to die. And she said I was crazy. And but you will have that, I had that feeling of death. And, I feel that my body came back because of my prior exercise. I think I had great veins that went through my body. I think some of my blood vessels are hanging out of my head and things because I exercise a lot. And so I think that helps because I had the big veins in there. I don't know. And the doctor I remember the doctor saying, well, once you're gonna get out of the hospital in a few days. And once you get out of the hospital, you can go back to running wind sprints. See, how did she know I ran wind sprints? I never told her that. And so, but they're doctors. I guess they know the body and stuff. So, but I did. I recovered and I was able to walk, talk, and chew gum about a month after I left the hospital on my own without oxygen. So that first book that nearly killed me, and it was therapy. And sometimes you have to go through hell to get the healing, So yeah.
I like how you said that. Sometimes you have to get through hell to get to healing.
Right. You have to go through hell to get the healing sometimes, and that's what the hell I did. I definitely almost died. This damn thing almost killed me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's interesting too, though. I guess I'm just trying to. Here you are trying to be raw and real, write this book, and it was for the first time you're sitting down and actually getting things out, and then you become really ill from this. It's like I'm just wondering if maybe all that had to do with you also releasing all of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
just kind of started to get trapped in parts of your body as you were writing and releasing. But you healed well and you came out of it and you were able to complete the book, in which it did really well, correct?
It did really well. That's been my number one book is the first one because that's the raw stories,
Oh yeah.
the bad, the ugly, falling into poop and getting out. Being a disabled learner, joining the Army at 17. That's where I'm 17 years old, and that's where I'm in Afghanistan. So I did 31 years for a long period of time, 1982 to 2014. And then I just remembered. And then what it does is it really activates the memory. There's a muscle, the memory muscle.
Yeah.
I remember, it's like, and I had a personal trainer. That's your ghostwriter. Come on, let's ask that same question. Hey, Dr. Leno, what did you do when you were 5 years old? Well, no, okay, again. And that, so even to this day, I remember things because I went through that exercise. Like, wow, I remember that. And a lot of people, when they get older, think, I can't remember anything. I can't remember anything. It was like, they haven't worked that memory muscle is what they haven't done.
Right. Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And so you didn't experience that at all with this new book.
With this new book, see, we had covered a lot of ground. So, and I was already built up from the first book, and I'd already had those memory muscles and things, and of course we were more experienced as a team with me and the ghostwriter, so it was able to flow more. So that was this fourth book we're sticking. But I don't want to talk about that. That third book. But I think this third book is written even better than the first book because the first book you're storming and norming, and you're not really performing until you get a few more books out there. So this one's probably written even better than the other one because this one's just like raw, storming and norming, and that's kind of how I look at it. But that first book it's really the top selling book. Yeah,
Storming and forming, but not performing.
right. Storm and norm. Yeah, first of all, you storm and then you norm.
Oh, storm and norm.
And then perform.
And
Yeah,
then perform.
storm, norm, and then perform.
Okay.
And so storming and norming is kind of difficult. And then once you get into performing, it's kind of like, I'm everything's going pretty well,
That's excellent. And so now you're in your fourth book.
I'm in my fourth book, and this fourth book, we're going through the we've been working on it probably about 9 months. And I'm from Fingerville. I'm from a small town called Fingerville, South Carolina. It's in the upper part of of South Carolina. It's in Spartanburg County. And when I grew up, a lot of people would say white trash, rednecks, and it was Southern music, rebel flags. The culture was a little different, and we're just trying to get some stories from that like particular part of the South
Sure.
and create a book. And I don't know, it might be how rednecks, white trash, and lint heads made my life. I don't know how it's going to be really, because we're just, and these are derogatory statements, so they're really negative statements, but they were sort of thrown around out there, and everybody knows what they are, but they don't talk about it because it's something that's going to hurt somebody. But we want to talk about it in stories and try to tell some stories of the South. But still, we're in that creative process, and so we're just allowing the flow to go. Yeah.
That's really fun being in the creative process and allowing the flow to go like that.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. Probably takes you a lot of places that you wouldn't even imagine you would go.
Yeah, and the creative process is probably, when I think about my Army experience, I was sort of not a normal dude in the military, which probably got me in a lot of trouble because I thought outside the box a lot. And then the Army, you have to do what you have to stay in the box, but the box wasn't. I was thinking, why can't we do it this way? Why do we have to go around here? I know how to get the job done, but I think a little differently, which probably gave me all the stories and the hell that I went through anyway. But so I'm in being a creator. Hell, I never created nothing until I got that first book. I just do what I'm told, and then sometimes I'll try to make stuff up and try to, because I can't read anyway. And they got read the regulations, go by the rules and regulations. And that kind of messed with my head a lot. Like, how do I do this, man? Because I think of this way, going around this way and doing this. And so I feel I'm more in my zone than I was when I was sometimes in the military. And so that's kind of what I think about as creativity. Yeah.
Jason, what do you think is your biggest accomplishment so far?
It's definitely a book. That was on my bucket list.
Oh,
The
wow.
book,
Congratulations.
that was my bucket list. This is like, I always wanted a book, and it took me so long, and I always went through hell to do it. So I got the first book done. It's like, I've done my bucket list. I'm okay. Well, I can die now. God, I can die. I got my like, but I'm thinking, well, what do we do now? It's like, well, about books, and you do the podcasting and get some other books done, and kind of just do those things. And so I felt that that's probably definitely the biggest accomplishment at post retirement. Well, I've been retired now about 10 years or so. And I think retiring from the Army would be my second accomplishment, because it just took me so many trials and tribulations to go and do the things that I did. And it surprised a lot of people and surprised me. I can't believe I did it. And so, yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Hey, so as you're talking right now, I was remembering your childhood story and how you had a learning disability, and I wonder what kind of advice you could give to somebody out there that says, I can't write a book. I've got a learning disability. I mean, because you did it. You've done
Mhm.
three. And so you've written three now. So what kind of
Yeah.
advice can you give to those that have a learning disability and that want to maybe one day think they can't ever write a book, but yet they want to?
I would say get help. Get a ghostwriter. Most people that write books, they have a ghostwriter. And even if you know how to write, you get somebody who's a storyteller. I went through a website called Upwork website. I put my project description up there, and I bid. I says, "Hey, who wants to help me out?" And then we started negotiating prices. This is all a slow process. I've never done it before. I just thought about it, and so it's kind of like, you think of a problem. This is what I want to do. Okay, look at it, think about it, walk with it, talk with it, pray with it, whatever you want to do. Talk to your dog about it. And and then something will, if you keep doing the same thing over and over, some little neuron will, oh, okay. And then you go with it, maybe trial and error, and see what works, what doesn't work, and so kind of that's kind of how I did it. I mean, with the first book, there's some misspellings, I no doubt, and it ain't, a lot of the stuff ain't perfect, but you know what, you have to decide and go through it, and that's kind of how I went through the process. And I mean, some people, I didn't have anybody. I even asked around, like, do you know a ghostwriter? No. Do you know who to do? What to do? No. I say, and all the advice they told me, don't do it yourself. And I think, well, I understand that. I don't know how to write anyway. And so, but I said, well, where's a ghostwriter at? I don't know how to get a ghostwriter. And then I saw the commercial on television. Hey, if you need help with anything online, go here and hell. I said, well, okay, I'll try that, because I'm not from a writing family. There's no authors, and there's nobody in my family that was authors and stuff like that. There's people that like to read books, but they don't know how to create one. And so that's kind of how you might want to do it. I think it's never give up. It's sort of like, if this is your passion, your call. I'm not not making much money out of this stuff anyway, but it's a passion, and I created it. It is mine. All right. And then it's going to be in the library. And you know what? Hey, you have a baby, you have a book, there's legacies that are handed down through generations,
Yeah. That's incredible. I love how you say you have a baby and you have a book. It's handed down generations.
Right.
Well, Lieutenant Colonel Jason Pike, it's really an honor to have you back on A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm really proud of you and your incredible accomplishments that you're continuing. It motivates me and inspires me to continue here, and actually inspired me to write a poem about you. So I'm going to read this right now.
Okay, cool.
All right. A soldier against all odds, out of the uniform and leadership through the crossfire. That of which I anticipate walking on a wire, which wouldn't be new to me, but a road to see, a long road ahead, the one I've chosen instead, this time to lift you up, to encourage and to face love, not fear, in the hopes to show you that the state of grace is near.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and it was scary. This is a fear. It was scary to put this stuff out there. There's no doubt about that. I didn't talk about the fear involved. There's a lot of fear involved.
Oh, there's a lot of fear. Yeah, I definitely.
Really, what really happened? What really happened? All the podcasts, putting my dark secrets out. What really happened? Most people just said, "Awesome, man! Awesome! That's pretty damn cool." Right. So that's what happened. It wasn't all the things I was thinking. Oh my God, they're going to come get me. I'm going to lose my friends. That didn't happen,
Mm-hmm. That's great. So you're able to see and go past some of the fear and some of the irrational thoughts that you had and realize that only good came from this.
Yeah. And really only good came from it. Fear. I think of false expectations appearing real. And that's what fear.
Oh, I love that. False I got to write this down.
False evidence appearing real. Yeah, false evidence appearing real. And yeah, in my blog, and that's what it is. False evidence, appearing real. So, but
false expectations,
but it seems like it is.
False evidence appearing real. That's incredible. Thank you for this. How can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find your books and get a hold of you if they need to?
JasonPike.org, JasonPike.org. I've got a website. I got the blogs out there. I got the podcasts out there, and it's on Amazon. So that you can put Jason Pike in your Amazon browser. There's only two out there. One's a Navy SEAL who's bigger than me. I'm small. And so
I saw him. Actually, I saw him. Yeah, I Googled, when I was Googling your new book, I saw him.
There's two Jason Pikes in the military.
Yeah,
so 50% chance getting one there, right? So, JasonPike.org. My social handles are out there. So, appreciate it putting me out there, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So great to have you back. Wishing you and your family tons of love. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to A Little Less Fear podcast. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends and your family about A Little Less Fear podcast. And if you are interested in being on my show, feel free to leave me an email at alittlelessfear@gmail.com. Or if you have any questions or comments and you also want to leave me an additional message, you can also do so from my website, leaving an inquiry at www.alittlelessfear.com. You can get a copy of my book on Amazon, Amazon Kindle, and Amazon Kindle Unlimited, also titled A Little Less Fear. And thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate all the support. Leave me a review if you get a chance. I love to receive feedback, questions, and comments. And any way that I can be of support to you, please let me know. Thank you so much. I love you. Wishing you love, light, happiness, and many blessings your way.